What's up everybody, Matt Moran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of exciting news to go over here, especially the Munich Auto Show. There's a bunch of new vehicles that were revealed. But first, for some stuff here in America, Chevy has revealed the Silverado ZR2 and a bunch of other improvements here for the 2022 Silverados. So they'll all be arriving next spring, but I'll cover the ZR2 here first. Sadly, it doesn't get any more power. It's going to be running the same 6.2 liter V8 as other Silverados and cements it firmly in that third place position, well behind the TRX and the Raptor. But, you know, it has some cool, more aggressive styling here, and along with that styling, the ZR2 does have a lot of great off-road hardware improvements. So it runs Multimatic 40mm DSSV spool valve dampers. You get unique springs for extra suspension travel, front and rear E-lockers, unique chassis and suspension tuning, a terrain driving mode that enables one pedal rock crawling, along with 33-inch tires and a skid plate up front. It gets no extra lift. It runs the same 2-inch lift the Trail Boss already has, although the ZR2 is slightly higher thanks to its 33-inch tires instead of the 32s you get on the Trail Boss version. Larger tires also won't be officially supported by Chevy. Another journalist asked that in the live Q&A I was a part of, and they were just acting like as if no one will ever do anything other than 33s on this truck, and it's anything that anyone else does, Chevy's not going to support it. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But anyway, so that's the ZR2. As for the regular Silverado, the changes are actually really nice and very welcome. So on the outside, they all get these new front ends that delete the old bottom lamps and lower the new headlights just a little bit, along with that new grille and stuff that you'll be getting. And I think it's actually a really nice change. I think just simply removing those lower lamps really improved the look, and now I think it's a little more mainstream and a little more easier to digest than before. The LT and higher models that get the daytime running lights now get an animated welcome and departure sequence as well. And on the inside, the updates are even bigger. The base work truck and the custom trims don't get any of the updates though, because they say their customers of those base models want a simpler truck without all the extra tech, which actually does make a lot of sense. So for those, I think it's mostly carryover on the inside there. But for the LT trim and above, there's now a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster and a big 13.4-inch horizontal infotainment screen there, which is really a nice improvement. It also has some Google voice assistant stuff you can do with it now. There's also an electronic console shifter on models with bucket seats. The High Country trim adds open pore wood trim now, and so that's a nice touch. So you're also going to get unique wingtip perforations in the leather seats, along with stainless steel speaker grills on the Bose system that comes now both on the High Country and the LTZ trims. High Country also is the only one to get an option of Super Cruise. I'm not sure why they're locking it out of everything except the High Country, because I'm sure other people do road trips in Silverados that aren't labeled High Countries. But anyway, it's only available on the High Country now, and the Super Cruise does get a unique calibration to help with towing, although they did say that auto lane changes aren't going to be available while you're towing. But otherwise, it will kind of intelligently figure out how to help with the towing there with the Super Cruise. But they did also say if it gets too windy and the trailer is oscillating too much, it will actually force you to take back over. So it's not going to be able to help you with towing 100% of the time, but certainly should be nice for normal conditions there. Lastly, the 2.7 liter turbo 4 engine gets 20% more torque, now putting out an impressive 420 pound-feet of torque for a little 4-cylinder. I mean, it's a big 4-cylinder, but still a 4-cylinder turbo to be doing 420 pound-feet of torque is impressive. Also, the 3-liter Duramax diesel versions of the Silverado don't get any improvements to the engine, but the chassis changes that they've had here for the 2022 Silverados now allow them to up the tow rating to 13,300 pounds there on those diesel versions, which is also a really big jump and very impressive. We don't have any updated pricing yet for these new Silverados. That's going to be revealed closer to that on sale date in the spring. But yeah, really great changes there for the Silverado. I'm glad they've kind of figured out that people want the higher tech premium interior, and I'm sure you'll see most of this follow through in the GMC versions as well, but really great to see it here in the Silverado. For some other truck news, Ford has officially teased the next generation Ranger, and it's Ford of Europe, but we will be getting the same Ranger here in the States. So, expect most of this stuff to come over here as well. But we don't have any details really too much. They just posted a teaser video on YouTube here, but they did reveal that it's going to be shown off and fully revealed here this fall, and it will be going on sale next year, at least in Europe, but I'm assuming we'll get it here next year as well. And so anyway, the teaser video shows it undergoing a bunch of testing in a bunch of different climates and conditions. And so you can see it's obviously still very heavily camouflaged, but you can kind of make out some F-150 inspired headlights there, and the boxier styling. It seems like it'll be a little more squared off for sure than the current generation Ranger. But aside from that, we can't really tell too much, but I'm sure we'll be getting some more teasers, especially some US specific teasers here relatively soon, if it is in fact coming this fall. So that's cool. But on to all these debuts at the Munich Auto Show. The first and possibly the most exciting one is Porsche has revealed the Mission R, which they say does actually preview a production car, likely the electric Cayman that we know is coming. So the Mission R is clearly a crazier race prep version of, you know, the electric Cayman. It's basically going to be like, I guess, what this platform has the potential to do. I think is kind of what they're suggesting here, because this thing is crazy. It has 1,073 horsepower, a 2.5 second 0 to 60 time, and all-wheel drive. So it has a 429 horsepower motor in the front, a 644 horsepower motor in the rear. So, you know, stripping away all the craziness, thinking about a realistic, relatively affordable, I'm talking under 100 grand or maybe around 100 grand, electric Cayman, you know, I could see them maybe doing like just that 429 motor in the rear, make it, you know, still rear-wheel drive like you would expect out of a Cayman, and, you know, similar power point, you know, to what you get currently with the Cayman. I think something like that could actually make sense, but we'll have to see. Anyway, so another impressive thing about this vehicle is that although it has a pretty large 82 kilowatt hour battery, the curb weight is only 3,307 pounds. That's mostly thanks to a carbon fiber tub, magnesium wheels, composite body panels, and a bare race-ready interior. Of course, that race-ready interior won't be on a regular Cayman, so that'll add some weight there easily. And then you also, I don't know about the carbon fiber tub either. I mean, that'd be really cool if they incorporate that, you know, in Caymans, but I mean, that is really going to jack up the price of the Cayman if that is something that they do in fact plan to, you know, offer. So yeah, we'll have to see how all this plays out, but there's hope that, you know, maybe we get a 3,500 pound Cayman or something. Still could be, you know, pretty hefty jump over a non-electric Cayman, but still, you know, there's some potential there to have it be reasonable still, although it might be pricey. Also, I think it looks fantastic, and it's also actually about 2.4 inches shorter than the current Cayman, they're saying. So a little more compact than that, I'm assuming, is with all that extra aero. If you strip down that aero, it might actually be even a little bit smaller than that. So that's kind of crazy. But yeah, so I mean, if you take off the wing and all the other crazy stuff, I'm guessing that's basically what you can imagine is going to be the next generation electric Cayman that's coming here in a few years. But we'll have to wait and see, you know, what Porsche ends up deciding to do and stuff. But very cool to see that, though. Mercedes revealed 4 different vehicles at the Munich Auto Show here. So first up is the EQE 350, which is the smaller, less expensive alternative to the EQS. And so this is the production version, by the way, and it's about 10 inches shorter and an inch narrower than an EQS. So that kind of gives you some perspective as far as how it's sized. Compared to a regular E-Class, it's about 2.5 inches longer, 4 inches wider, and 2 inches taller, and also rides on a nearly 7-inch longer wheelbase. So a little bit bigger than an E-Class, but not by much. That longer wheelbase also gives it more interior space than an E-Class, and Mercedes also includes all the EQS tech, like the optional Hyperscreen. You'll be able to get all that stuff here in the EQE as well. From a performance standpoint, it's a lot less impressive than the EQS, though, with the launch version only running a single rear motor for a rear-wheel drive and 288 horsepower and 391 pound-feet of torque. Still, though, it ends up managing to do a 5.6 second 0 to 60, which is actually I'm kind of surprised by with only a 288 horsepower motor, but that's what they're claiming, and the real advantage for this lower output is the range. So they're saying it still runs a 90.6 kilowatt hour battery pack, and Mercedes is claiming a range of 410 miles on the generous WLTP testing cycle here in the US. I mean, I would expect range to be in the mid to high 300s, and there's no pricing yet for those here, but it will be arriving in America as a 2023 model sometime next year. And we do know that all-wheel drive will almost certainly come later, and that will, of course, give more power. And we also know there'll be at least one AMG version for sure as well. But in the meantime, you know, cool to at least, you know, see the first version of the EQE. Speaking of AMG versions, though, Mercedes also showed off the AMG EQS 53. So it gets different electric motors, better cooling, and a 107.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack. So normally it makes 649 horsepower and 700 pound-feet of torque. but there's a race start mode that temporarily bumps power to 751 horsepower and 742 pound-feet of torque, and enables a 3.4 second 0 to 60 time for that AMG version. They also improved handling with a different rear subframe and control arms, along with adding standard rearwheel steering and an air suspension similar to the one in the AMG GT. It also gets larger 6-piston front brakes, and you can even option on carbon ceramic rotors that are 17.3 inches in diameter if you want. The styling is also sportier, of course, on the outside and the inside, and falls in line with other AMG models there. And so there's no pricing for these yet, but they should also be arriving sometime next year. The next two Mercedes vehicles they revealed are concepts, but they're thinly veiled concepts that'll be coming as production models relatively soon as well. So the third one here is the Concept EQG. So while it is just a concept, they say it's a near production vehicle, and we know it should be produced relatively soon because they've been talking about how they're going to do an electric G-Wagon for a while. And I mean, even most of the lighting appears to be pretty production ready here, although I don't know if those LED strips there on the side of the vehicle will actually stick around. But another interesting change you'll see on the back is that they got rid of the spare tire there and instead put a square storage box that's supposedly inspired by charging stations, but it's just a normal storage box back there. It's kind of an interesting little touch. They also didn't provide too many mechanical details just yet, since again this is a concept, but they did say it runs 4 electric motors and still has a low range, and it still has a similar suspension setup to a regular G-Wagon as well. They say that it actually has the batteries inside the frame to maintain good off-road capability, and Mercedes is saying they still are they're judging it against the normal G-Wagon as far as off-road requirements. It'll be able to do, I'm assuming, everything the regular G-Wagon can do, or at least the AMG version as far as off-roading goes. So that's pretty impressive that they're able to hopefully maintain all that and still have the electric thing. That's gonna be pretty cool. I'm sure we'll see that relatively soon here in the next year or two. And the last Mercedes that they revealed at the Munich Auto Show here is the Maybach EQS Concept. So despite having the EQS name, this is obviously an SUV, not a sedan. I'm not sure how they're going to clear that up, since there's now 2 completely different styled vehicles that are called EQS. But anyway, this previews a production vehicle that will come both in Maybach and regular Mercedes versions. And the Maybach here, though, it's a 2-row vehicle with very luxurious rear seats. We don't have any mechanical details, though, for that one either, but they did just claim 373 miles on the WLTP cycle. And yeah, we just know that a production version of this EQS SUV should be arriving sometime next year as well. BMW also had a debut here at the Munich Auto Show. They showed off the iVision circular concept. And so thankfully this one won't be leading to a production version, which is very much good news, because that thing is interesting, that's for sure. They say it's designed to show off what a vehicle from BMW made entirely of recycled materials could look like, and this one is also designed to be completely recyclable as well, so it's very easy to disassemble, they said, and stuff, which sounds nice in some utopian world where no one steals car parts. But when they're saying how they're like using hardly any adhesives or anything, it's like, okay, so if you were to build something like this, anyone could just like pop off your bumper and walk off with it very easily with basically no tools. So I don't know, it just seems kind of an interesting thing. I don't know how realistic it will actually be, but it has all kinds of futuristic ideas and quirks. But interestingly, the seats look like they're straight out of the 1970s, like from some land yacht or something, that America built in the 70s. And so anyway, along with this car, BMW did also announce their goal to go to 50% recycled materials in future production vehicles. Currently, they're at about 30%, they said, of each car that comes from recycled materials on average, which I honestly didn't even realize it was that high. They actually use 30% recycled materials in this stuff. But anyway, so that's cool. And yeah, so eventually, they do want to get to 100% someday, but in the near term, they want to try and get to 50%, which is a noble goal. Volkswagen also had a debut here at the Munich Auto Show. They revealed the ID.Life concept, which previews a new European city car coming in 2025 that could be called the ID.2. That's the speculation currently. And so it's 14 inches shorter than the Volkswagen Taos subcompact SUV that we get here in the States. So basically, if it's that small, there's no hope of it coming to the States. You know, we all want enormous vehicles here, and so this most likely will not come. And it's a shame though, because it seems like it's a pretty cool little vehicle here. So a couple of the cool little touches. You can see the boxy looks, the retro kind of headlights and stuff that I think are great. Taillights also look like they have a retro vibe to them. And also there is the ability to transform the interior, and you can turn it into either a gaming lounge or a movie room. They're saying there's a 34-inch screen that rises up out of the back of the dashboard there when you're parked, and the bench seats actually fold flat so you can stretch out and relax in the back there. And so it's actually kind of a cool little idea. I like that. It's also on the MEB electric platform, but they say it's been reworked to be front-wheel drive actually. And Volkswagen also gave lots of mechanical details on this already as well, which suggests this is actually coming. I mean, it sounds like it's coming sooner than 2025 with how specific they're getting with everything. So they claim 234 horsepower, 214 pound-feet of torque, along with a 249-mile range, again on that European test cycle. And that's with a 62 kilowatt-hour battery pack. So, you know, not a ton of range, but again, we're talking about something that should be mostly a city car. So that makes sense. And they even actually already gave a price estimate saying it's going to cost somewhere between 20 and 25,000 euros, which puts it about $24,000 to $30,000 roughly is the range, which, I mean, if there was an actual, like, you know, good SUV from, you know, one of these companies here in the States you could actually get for well under $30,000 that was electric and actually had a decent amount of room, I think that, you know, it'd actually be a pretty big hit. I don't know. I mean, I know it's going to be shorter than a Taos, but probably has at least as much interior space as the Taos just because of, you know, the electric packaging and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe there'd be some hope for it here in the States. But anyway, sounds like we're not getting it, and so no surprise there. But anyway, very cool to see that, though. And I think it's really a creative interior design there. Hyundai at the Munich Auto Show, they revealed a bunch of hydrogen prototypes for their Vision 2040 strategy that they're planning. And the most interesting part about it was actually, at least for enthusiasts, the Vision FK was teased here. And so it's still in camo, but we have a lot more details on it and a lot better view of it here with the one high-res picture in this teaser video here. And so it still looks like it's a modified Kia Stinger, which makes me think this is still a work in progress. But we'll have to, you know, see what happens with the actual production car if one does come. But it sounds like this is kind of headed towards a production direction because we have some interesting details on it. But we do know they confirmed it's actually being developed with Rimac and uses their battery packs and motors for the back half of the vehicle. Up front, it's running a hydrogen fuel cell system to drive the front wheels, but that Rimac part in the back works with it to, you know, do active torque vectoring and stuff, which is cool. And they claim 671 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time under 4 seconds for this car. Range is claimed to be 373 miles, although they didn't say whether that's thanks to the hydrogen or how much of that comes down to the battery pack, since it seems to be running, again, both systems simultaneously. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like an interesting idea. I mean, obviously the horsepower and stuff, all the performance stuff sounds awesome. I mean, imagine almost a 700 horsepower Stinger. Sounds great. But you know what I mean? The Rimac component makes me think they wouldn't waste Rimac's resources on something that they never actually plan to use or build or do anything with. So I'm assuming this is gonna, you know, result in something someday. We'll have to see. And I mean, Hyundai seems to be intent on bringing this kind of stuff to market, because here's what Hyundai said. Even though they have a lot of electric vehicles coming, you know, we know they have several vehicles in the pipeline here for the next few years, their chief marketing officer at this presentation said that we are absolutely convinced we are on the right track and we cannot survive with battery technology alone. This is our firm belief. And I agree. I mean, I think that, you know, hydrogen is a more sustainable long-term solution here to, you know, this stuff. But, you know, there's still the lack of infrastructure. That's the whole problem, you know. I mean, everyone complains about electric infrastructure being lacking already, and that's miles and miles ahead of where hydrogen's at currently. So, you know, I mean, it just hydrogen has a very, very uphill battle, and it's going to take tons of investment and also packaging, you know, that you have to worry about as far as, you know, having these enormous tanks to hold all the hydrogen. It's not a very energy dense, you know, fuel the way that they're using it currently. And so, it's just tough, you know. I mean, I hope they figure out the hydrogen thing. I hope, you know, Hyundai does, or someone does. I mean, Honda, GM, they're partnered up to work on it. Toyota's working on it. You know, basically, you know, most of these companies are kind of dabbling in hydrogen stuff. It's just like, when you have like 5 fueling stations all around the country. You know, like what do you, it's kind of tough to do. But anyway, I wish them the best of luck. I hope it works out. I think it'd be cool if it did. And but yeah, interesting to see that. Speaking of Hyundai's ongoing EVs and all that stuff that they're working on still, they did tease the IONIQ Large SUV this week on social media that's coming. So it looks cool from what we can see here with the one image. I'm just hoping it will actually be a 3-row electric SUV, because there's still, aside from the Tesla Model X, nobody here in the States that's offering a 3-row thing, and it just kind of is mind-boggling to me. That's such an enormous market, and no one's done an electric 3-row yet here aside from Tesla. So hopefully, you know, maybe Hyundai will be the first to market with this, and probably will sell a ton of them if it is. But we'll have to just keep our eyes on that and see what ends up happening there. Moving on from the Munich stuff though here, Honda this week has officially announced the TrailSport trim level and naming here for their trucks and SUVs. So they tease it on the back of a Passport, which appears to be the first model to be getting it, and it looks like the refreshed Passport will also be getting more rugged front end and back end styling here, and basically just getting the new Ridgeline styling with that, you know, more truck-like front end. Expect that here in the Passport. I think they kind of saw that in some spy pictures recently, but anyway, as far as the TrailSport stuff in particular, Honda says that will, at least for the first TrailSport models, it will feature rugged front and rear styling, durable cladding, and exclusive interior touches, including high contrast orange stitching, signature all-weather mats that are easier to clean, and that, you know, that's basically it. So while that, you know, seems pretty underwhelming, they did say that down the road it will be more extensive. So, you know, I feel like it's kind of souring the TrailSport name from the get-go, though, to have it be like, oh wait, it's just a bunch of like trim and badges. Whenever, you know, later on when they're trying to sell actual improvements, people are going to be like, oh, I just thought it was trim and badges. But anyway, they did say that down the road, for future models, over the next few model years, and depending on the model, TrailSport off-road capability will further increase with upgrades like more aggressive tires, full-size spare tires, increased ground clearance, off-road tuned suspensions, underbody protection, and expanded all-wheel drive system capabilities. Now that actually sounds like something substantial. So it sounds like they'll get there eventually, but as of right now, you know, it's not going to be anything too exciting. But, you know, we'll have to see. They didn't, I don't think, announce when they're going to be revealing that TrailSport stuff for the Passport, but I'm guessing we'll see it here relatively soon. But interesting to hear that. Lexus this week has announced that the RCF is continuing on for another model year, so that's always good news. And so does the Fuji Speedway edition that was introduced last year. They only made 60 of them last year. This year, they're continuing with that special edition. They're only doing 50 this year, so they're doing 10 less. And they've changed the wheel design, and there's now this new electric surge color on the outside. It's the only color you can get, and on the inside, it gets black and blue Alcantara. The regular RCF is also continuing to be available, and I'm just glad they're keeping it around. That V8 engine is certainly endangered, and aside from this and the IS500, you know, we probably won't see it around for too much longer. The LC500 will keep running it probably too, but you know, that motor's days are numbered. So anything that has that engine in it, I'd say snap it up. It might be collectible down the road. But yeah, great to see those are continuing on. And kind of the polar opposite of that news, the last news story here is that New York's new governor has just joined California with proposing a goal of 100% of in-state new car sales to be zero-emission vehicles by 2035. They have a similar goal for medium and heavy-duty trucks by 2045. And there's also 10 other states pushing for this same goal by 2035, so don't be surprised if more states come out and announce a very similar thing. And so, yeah, that's the case. I mean, again, they're starting about only new car sales. So anything used, anything older, you can still keep your old gas stuff as long as you want. It's just new stuff, again, 14 years from now. A lot can change in 14 years. I always keep saying this every time someone makes a goal like this. Lots of things change in 14 years, as well as, you know, political stuff changes, environmental stuff changes, technological stuff changes, for better, for worse. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But, you know, if you have California and New York and then 10 other states joining in, all wanting the 2035 deadline for the, you know, gas ending, you know, I think that will be enough. Even if the other states don't do it, you know, that'll probably be enough to affect, you know, what gets offered here from 2035 on in a big way, because I mean, you know, those are basically the same states that probably are requiring the CARB certification, you know, like California spearheaded way back when. And so, you know, that kind of influenced all the other states. You know, there's usually no other non-CARB certified stuff for other states as far as OEMs go. So it's basically, if all 12 of those states are asking for it, chances are the rest of the states aren't going to be getting gas-powered stuff beyond 2035 either, unless there's some huge change in buying demographics or something like that. But anyway, that's that. Again, that's 14 years from now. We can just, you know, worry about the next few years here. We got enough on our plate, and we'll see what happens by 2035. But anyway, that's it for all the news this week. Let me know your thoughts and everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.